Hello, everybody, and this is a special moonlight edition of the beautiful Shy Hill Farm at the dusk hour in the nighttime. In that special time, there's Inky, Winky, Minky, and there's Egg Will Run that you can't even see, and it is empty, and that's been the kind of the hardest part of the past few days. I've said before, the loss of the girl is bad enough, but when there's a loss in the flock, like that's another level of like sadness and pain. You know, people would say like, oh, they're chickens, they're not meant to be your pet. And I would say, listen, maybe you're right. Maybe you're absolutely right. However, if you've ever experienced a chicken's love and affection towards you and how they feel your protection and love for them, you might have to just surrender and say, all right, we're screwed. Because just as the OG6 concludes, at least out here, because Shy's still inside and going strong, I'm about to do it all over again. And start all over again. So Bok Bok died of death. The signs from the cytology report from her fluids basically indicate cancer. So that was it, you know. That was it. That was the end. And I'm gonna be grateful, and I'm going to say that my prayers were answered for this reason. And this is like not a nice subject, and it's a little gruesome, so if you don't want to hear it, you know, maybe stop now. But I'm gonna tell you like kind of the truth of chicken death if you never experienced this. So I've had this experience with a few of my girls, and they are just so full of fluid that essentially it drowns them, and their head thrashes and they're drowning. This was what happened to Chicken, and that's what happened to Snowdrop, and it's really horrible. And the day before Bok died, she kind of was, her crop was filled. And I really was like, God, please, I'm really begging you. I really, really begged hard to God, like, do not let this happen. Like, do not let her drown, please, Lord. I like almost, I almost like promised, like, I will never let this happen again to a chicken in my care. And it was like, if I have to take her tomorrow to be like put down, then I will. When we brought her home from being drained, she ate like a whole bowl of food, and the next day her boob was completely filled. And I was like, please God, I do not want her to drown out again. I'm not going to do this. So I'm like, I panic called the doctor. He said that's probably not the case, you know. He said just let her rest. And we're waiting for the cytology reports to come back from her fluid to know what to do. You know, I've seen like Shy come back from some terrible situation, so you don't know. Maybe this is a small thing. Maybe she just needs an antibiotic. Maybe there was an occurrence of egg laying internally from a while ago. You know, maybe she has a reproductive infection that could be treated with antibiotic, but not in this case. Yeah, unfortunately, unless you're able or willing to do an ultrasound or x-ray or a big test like that for $700 to $1,000, it's a bit of guesswork, sadly. In this case, it looks like it could have very well been like a tumor, cancer, or something big, bigger than we can deal with. The next day, on Thursday morning, her crop was like half the size. It was smaller. So I'm like, okay. But I was not getting any information on this report, so I really didn't know what to do. And I was like, please, God, please, please. I like begged and prayed to God, please, just don't let her drown. Just don't let her drown. I really begged God for that. And the next morning I woke up and she had died in the night. So I wasn't there. I didn't see what happened. But based on how like I found her, I know she didn't drown. And I know she didn't drown because there was no fluid around her mouth. Is this too much? I think this might be too much. It might be too much. It just might be too much, but it's the truth. So, you know, we didn't get the cytoplasmic, whatever it is, test results back until, you know, she was already gone. Drown on their fluids, and they do this like, I'm just gonna call it a noodle dance. Let's just call it noodle dance. I don't know if that helps. Their heads, oh, it's terrible, but you know, that's all I gotta say. So I've seen the noodle dance, and I was like, God, please help me never ever allow this to happen again, one way or the other. And with the Bak, you know, we had her drained and hoped for the best. The day after the drain, she was really just chilling. She had a big crop. She had eaten a whole lot of food. The doctor said, like, hey, let's just let her chill. The next day, the crop had gone down like a lot, but she was just sitting there. And I'm not able to get in touch with the doctor. The tests aren't back in to know what to do, to even start an antibiotic or anything like that. And I was then again like in that place of just frustrated, not knowing what to do. And maybe that would have been the right time to just take her somewhere and say, okay, let's do this. Let's end her life humanely. But the next day I found her and she was gone. So between saying goodnight and going down to check on her in the morning, she passed away. But I know that she did not noodle dance. Okay? I know she didn't. Based on, you know, what I saw, I know she didn't noodle dance. And that's really all I wanted. And I really prayed out to God for that. And I'm going to just call it answered prayer. Really did ask for that. Like, God, could you just like, can these guys, like, when it's time, can they just like, that's all I want. I just want my chickens to, I don't want noodle dance. I don't want this like trauma. Just one day you're walking, you're happy, you're eating, you're playing, you're pooping, then just one day everything's fine. Then maybe one day it's not fine, and one day it's like kind of but then just so I'm gonna just say that's what I got. I got my so I guess what I want to say is, like, when your chicken gets sick, I think it's worth it to give them the chance. Not everyone agrees with that. And maybe you're right. And maybe you have a point. And maybe I will reconsider that at some point. But I've seen, like, Shy come back from devastating stuff. So the other factor is, again, these chickens, like, they're like 4 years old. For their breed, they've outlived their expectancy. So there's that too. It's, you know, different when they're younger. So there's that to consider also. You know, but if it would have taken a round of antibiotic for her to bounce back and live out and then be a mommy to like these linky minkies and inkies over here, cool. Not the case though. Not the case. Because on the other hand, the other half of the time, it's something big that, you know, that's just out of your hands, and it's just time. So say la vie to Bak, and if there is a chicken heaven, I'm sure you're happy to see everybody. I doubt there's a pecking order. I'm sure everybody's happy. So we bid farewell to our darling, sweet little Bak, and we move on and I start all over again, I guess. And thanks everyone for joining us and sticking with us and enjoying our girls with us. Love you guys so much, and I'll see you real soon. God bless you.